This session, Measuring and Reporting Corporate Impact, will cover approaches to reporting corporate impacts on society and initiatives to create coherence, accessibility, and dialogue for sharing across corporate reports. The value of and opportunities for increasing the inclusion of health as a component of corporate reporting will be presented. Panelists will also discuss the impacts of sustainable development goals on companies and their reporting. Numbers, metrics, and speaking a common language are incredibly important to me because you can often leave a room after a large presentation and go into the corridors and nobody is saying exactly what you said or seems to have understood it. I learned this many, many years ago in a rather traumatic way. I was a young soldier. I was pulled into a room by a lot of very large men. They blocked out the daylight in the room. And I was told that I was going to be involved in an important project. It was called Project Pandora. It was a remnant of the Cold War. Microwaves had been bounced off of the American embassy, and people had a great many symptoms. And they thought, as a cardiologist, newly minted, thousands of catheterizations, hours, hundreds of hours in the coronary care unit, I was going to help make a machine that was going to recreate what happened in an animal model, but as the cardiologist, so just come on in and help. And by the way, this was secret and not to be discussed with anyone. But my role was important. I was then taken to a room full of engineers, who I have a great deal of respect for, who asked me one question. What is the heart rate that they had to put into the machine? And I said, heart rates vary from 70 to 99. And then they looked at me like, I don't know if you've seen this GE commercial where this young man tries to explain to his parents and his friends what he does at GE. Well, I again told them what the heart rate range was in the normal individual. And they continued to look at me, and then they looked at each other, and they remembered they had all had EKGs at some point, and they were given a particular heart rate. But I couldn't give them the heart rate for this multi-million-dollar machine they were going to build, so what was my issue? So I began to sweat. I saw my life pass before my eyes, the tunnel, Elvis, the light, that sort of thing. And I said, in your literature, and a literature I know about called pacemaker literature, you program pacemakers. Historically, the initial pacemakers were set at a particular rate, let's say 100. But you couldn't go to sleep at a heart rate of 100. Okay? You just couldn't. And the initial people who had pacemakers put in asked them to be removed, which had a negative outcome for many of them, unfortunately. But I remembered that when we put in pacemakers, we used a term called hysteresis, which was a loop which allowed the heart to speed up and slow down. So I immaculately said to them, in somewhat of an epiphany, we're going to use hysteresis, gentlemen, and that's what we'll put in this machine. So they put the machine together. We found out what exactly caused the effects of the Americans in the embassy, and it was a success. But it was close. So with that, I'm going to begin with my panelists to show that you have to, again, speak a common language, find out a common denominator. Often it is numbers, which will definitely be scrutinized. But again, the panelists are going to, from varied perspectives, and again, it will be global. We are not going to be US-centric in this panel, which I am very proud of. So with that, Allison, you're on.